On this episode of the AAF Exchange, the economic and fiscal costs of the operation in Iran, a Jones Act suspension, and an economic update. Joining us to break all this down is AAF President Douglas Holtz-Eakin. Doug, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Before we jump into everything, what's been on your mind recently?
Executive orders.
Yeah.
I'm tired of them. Can you make them stop?
I don't have that authority. I'm not a lawyer.
Okay. No, an executive order is an order to the cabinet agencies to do something, and a lot of them now just appear to be campaign documents to me. And the housing executive orders that came out about 6 days ago now are the ones that really stand out, because these are provisions that, number one, start with the Secretary of the Army shall. Like, if you're doing the Secretary of the Army for housing policy, you're in the wrong part of the universe. Number two, the provisions, ultimately, which are meant to be regulatory relief, are in both the House bill and the Senate bill. And what the White House should be doing is using its energy to get those bills to conference in the law, as opposed to doing executive orders and saying, okay, we've taken care of that problem.
Yeah.
So I'm a little frustrated at the lack of sort of serious legislative effort and follow through.
Right. It seems like we've just sort of set Congress aside. I mean, they're working on, they do the funding appropriations, but executive orders have been around for a while now.
Oh yeah. No,
and I mean, they're not going anywhere.
There's a place for them.
But what I'm trying to, it seems like we've just slowly kept moving the goalposts about how, how many executive orders we're doing, how, much authority they have, and what areas to use them in.
Well, and if you want to go really old school, let's go founders. Okay.
Yeah.
If you go up to the Capitol, you will find in the center of the Capitol a star, and then that's ground zero, where we break DC into northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast.
Yep.
It's at the center. Congress is at the center.
Yeah.
The Capitol's on the hill. The executive branch is in that house down in the valley, of pretty far off the center. But somewhere the power shifted.
Yeah.
And this is evidence of it.
Yeah, interesting. All right, well, yeah, because, like you said with the housing bill, it would be nice. There was a bipartisan bill. It should be pretty easy to get it over the finish line.
Yeah.
But
there are two complicating factors. One is the sort of prohibitions on private equity to own homes. That's manageable, right? You can find a way to get through that. And the other is stacking the SAVE Act in front of it in the Senate, and that's all fixable.
Yeah, and by the way, legislation is more permanent than executive orders. When a new administration can come in and just wipe that executive order away. I mean, we've seen that with a number of executive orders where a Republican administration's in, then this executive order's in, and then out.
Legislation ends up on the 40. Executive orders go from 110 to the other 10 as you change administrations. It's just madness.
Interesting. All right. Let's talk about what seems to be on everybody's mind, and of course that's the operation on Iran.
Yeah.
It's into its third week at this point. Congress will soon debate a funding package. What's the latest on the cost?
Well, the number we have is an astonishing number, and that was, they put out, it cost $11 billion for the first 6 days. So if you take that at roughly $2 billion a day, you're on track for a $700 billion a year cost. That's 7 times what Iraq cost.
Wow.
It's unbelievably large. And we don't know what all's in that number. Mm-hmm. And we know we are blowing up a lot of fairly pricey munitions. They'll have to be replaced. And so this is a very costly endeavor. Keeping 2 aircraft carriers there and the expeditionary forces and all that, it all costs money. There's been rumors of a supplemental to go up to Congress, and today's rumor is $200 billion. Remember, yesterday's rumor was $100 billion, so things are moving fast. I don't see any way you get $200 billion through Congress. That seems like an extraordinary number. To get a number, you have to take a stand on the duration of this conflict, and we've had no hint of that so far, and so there's a lot more to this than just the number, because the number embeds in it the scope of the operations, the duration of the operations, and requires you to describe some things that the administration hasn't so far, like what constitutes success, what's the endpoint that we can, use to exit. And, we'll see.
Yeah, what the goals are, what we aim to accomplish, what victory looks like. Those things have.
Another way to think of the $200 billion is they've been crowing about how the tariffs close the deficit. Well, that's over.
Yeah,
they just spent it.
Yeah.
So
fair enough. So there's also that's the appropriations cost of this. There's also an economics cost that we're dealing with.
We're going to deal with that.
It's oil, obviously, but there's a lot of other things that go through the strait.
So the direct impacts are oil, natural gas, fertilizer, and water. Believe it or not, it's a big deal in the Middle East. So those are having big impacts. We've now hit the level of oil prices that are concerning to me. The U.S. economy can handle $100 a barrel. We're at $120 this morning. How long is the next question? And there, overnight, things took a turn for the sort of more problematic because they're now shooting at different infrastructure facilities, and they took out part of a natural gas plant, and Trump responded with the threats to take out an entire oil field. I'll just note for the record, if the more Iranian oil facilities that we blow up, the more the economic cost goes up. That happens in the U.S. It happens everywhere. So it's not just an impact in Iran. So I think the oil price level and duration are the big wild cards right now, and we're getting closer to danger territory.
Yeah, to families that are already dealing with the affordability crisis. I mean, obviously the pain at the pump when you go fill your car.
You're going to hear tons about the gas.
Groceries are going to go up because how do you got to ship them to places, and
the fertilizer not being available in the planting season is going to be an issue.
Yeah, we're coming into
this is an issue.
We don't talk much about the agricultural calendar on the podcast, but
you're a farm boy, aren't you?
Yeah, I did grow up in Vermont, so yes, I do know a little bit about farming.
You guys have roads?
Dirt roads. But,
okay. I was just checking.
All right. Let's move on to one of the proposed solutions that are out there, and that's of course the Trump administration has suspended the Jones Act to ease energy
days.
For how many days?
60 days.
60 days to ease energy prices. Start off by telling us what the Jones Act is for those that don't know, and why waiving it will help the economic fallout from Iran.
So the Jones Act is a 1920s era requirement that goods on the ports of the United States be delivered by U.S. flagged ships with U.S. crews and all sorts of U.S. requirements. So it has to be domestic shipping, and it's more expensive than the international stuff. It was intended to keep an active merchant marine available for call-up in the case of naval hostilities. And so if you look at it from a defense perspective, it hasn't really done that. So it didn't meet that objective. It makes shipping to and from places like Hawaii and Puerto Rico in particular incredibly expensive. And right now, you want to get the oil to the Gulf Coast, in particular refineries, and it would be cheaper to just be able to use the big international tankers and not have to switch and things like that. So suspending it's a good idea. It'll be a little bit of a windfall. It should just be gone, in my view. It has outlived its usefulness. A temporary suspension just reveals that. But it's it's like a lot of things. It's very hard to get out.
Yeah, so it's intended to help lower for the next 60 days with the Iran situation. It's intended to help lower costs and
shipping costs have gone wild. Not shockingly. I mean, if you're insuring vessels now and you're traversing territories that are of the ocean that are much more dangerous than you thought they were, it all makes sense.
Yeah. You and as you were just alluding to, you have argued for a long time that this should just go. You and your friend Scott Lincecum on Twitter always are talking about this.
I'm a piker by comparison. Scott is the king of the Jones Act. He once posted on Twitter the fact that he was talking to some woman in the bar about the Jones Act. Now, this has to be one of the worst pickup efforts in history.
Only in D.C. Why? Just outline again why this would just be a good idea outside of the Iran conflict.
It reduces just tons of shipping costs, right? I mean, that's it's not deeper than that. But transport costs are real.
Yeah.
And we don't think much about them if you're in the interior of the United States, because we have a lot of rail and truck transportation, and it's relatively cheap, and that's it. But if you're getting things to and from the mainland, or from the mainland to Puerto Rico and Hawaii, it's a big expense.
Interesting. All right, it's time for the return of the trivia question.
Ooh.
We haven't done one of these in a few episodes.
I was not told.
Yeah, I know. I'm throwing a curveball at you.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, CBO projects that interest on the debt will surpass Social Security as the largest federal spending category in what year?
2047.
So I had 2035 from the dish, but
I thought in the long-term outlook it was 2047.
It could have been.
Let me think. Am I right or is Kyle right? But wait, I was the source for the dish. Oh dear, this is not good.
But I mean, But what it does say is the debt's getting real.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, the debt is big. The carrying cost of the debt is big. You know, we have these really large deficits in the outlook, and one of the things that people sort of don't focus on is if you look at what we call the primary deficit, the difference between revenues and spending on that isn't interest, it's like all the programs, the Defense Department, education, all that stuff. We have relatively small primary deficits. We have enormous overall deficits because it's all interest costs. That should be a wake-up call.
Yeah.
When you're borrowing to pay the interest on previous borrowing, it's called college level finance. This is a college student in action.
It really is. But again, we have an election coming up, and there's not a lot to talk about this.
Zero, absolutely zero. So I have the great fortune to talk to lots of different groups, and I teach master's students fairly regularly, and They just can't understand how we got here. Like, what happened? Mm-hmm. How can we possibly have so much debt? And why is the interest so large? And when is someone going to do something about it?
Yeah.
I'm like, well...
Yeah, what is the precipitating event that gets us to care, that gets, the majority of Americans to care about this?
I think it's the insolvency of Social Security.
Yeah.
Because that means...
Which is when?
That's 6 years off.
Yeah.
So between now and 6 years from now, and my forecast at 5 years, 11 months, we're going to do Social Security reform. Mm-hmm. The thing that has always been the third rail of politics, don't do it. We had presidents, Biden and Trump saying, don't do it. It's going to be do it. We're going to have to do it. And it's going to be really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
And it's going to wake everyone up to the fact that we have tons of these fiscal imbalances that are going to be hard to fix. They better get on it.
Yeah. If the timeline is right, then the next president has to deal with this.
Again,
because 2 years from now,
in my rich fantasy life, one of the things that happens is, everyone who's running in 2028 is going to want to serve 2 terms, so it's going to happen on their watch.
Yes.
And on those campaigns, there's going to be some nerdy person like me who's going to say, sir, madam, on your watch, we have this Social Security thing. You might want to warn the voters.
Yeah.
And I don't expect actually plans or anything, but I pledge to work with Congress to ensure the future solvency of Social Security.
Right.
Period. But that's a big change.
Yeah.
A big change.
Because
we haven't seen anything like that in a while.
I remember the scene at the State of the Union a few years ago where Biden got the Republicans to stand up and clap to not touch
that was ridiculous.
Social Security or Medicare.
A shameful fiscal moment in our history. Unbelievable. But that's the wake up call. And the politics change. And for people who are close to retirement, they don't know what they're going to get.
Yeah.
Because we know we have to change it. And so there's going to be pressure to, let's settle the deal. What am I going to get? And so that's a change in the politics, too. There are going to be people who are going to say to their member, you need to fix Social Security. Do it.
Yeah.
Touch it.
But and you're right. Like, nobody's going to want to run for re-election because on your timeline, they would be gearing up to run for re-election. So nobody's going to want to, go through a fight with Congress on how to fix it, and at the same time be running, or at the same time have it be insolvent while they're running for re-election.
That's impossible to imagine, right?
So, yeah. All right. Finally, let's talk about the overall economy.
Sure.
The Fed met this week. They didn't change interest rates. What have we learned about the economy?
we had going into this Fed meeting an economy that had these sort of conflicting narratives, right? You had a real strong GDP growth in the third quarter with big productivity, and it dropped off sharply in the fourth quarter, in part due to the government shutdown, but it downshifted by 2 percentage points. That downshift was the household sector, and it was because disposable income hadn't grown in the second half of last year. So one risk that's there is a household sector that falters considerably, and means that you endanger the growth in employment mandate, and the Fed's more likely to cut. On the other hand, we've had all sorts of trouble getting inflation down, and if you look at the Fed's preferred measure, year over year, it didn't change in 25. Like, they made no progress at all in getting back to 2%, and right now it's going the wrong direction. So that was all true, and then that was prior to the Iran hostilities, and so all of those things are worse now. The risks on the downside are worse, the risks on the inflation side are worse, and the Fed has no good way to do what it usually does, which is extrapolate from the present to the future to see where rates should be. So they stood pat. That's the sensible thing, but it's really just awaiting the incoming data to see which risk transpires to the greatest degree.
Yeah, because we had a bunch of those. We had a bunch of inflation reports last week, but as you noted, most of that was pre-war, or pre-operation in Iran.
But I find those troubling enough.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at core PCE inflation, December and January, we're looking at 3.7 and 4.5 at annual rates.
Wow.
Okay, getting hotter, like and the PPI stuff, all that came in at 0.7% for the month. Now you're talking 8%.
Yeah,
that's really all of that's very troubling.
Yeah,
and then we have the hostilities, so we'll see where we end up.
Yeah. So Powell was yesterday during his press conference. I know you were testifying during it. I don't know if you saw any of what he said, but he talked a lot about the economy is pretty resilient right now.
It has been.
He said, he was talking about, as 2023, a lot of economists were predicting recession. That didn't happen.
Yes.
He was very much saying that, he wouldn't call this stagflation. We have tension, but so he was a little bit more optimistic.
So I mean, one of the things that we've all learned is that the employment number is less important than it used to be. I mean, we went a whole year with the economy losing jobs everywhere but health.
Yeah.
And the unemployment rate's still at 4.4%. Wage growth is still exceeding the inflation, so we still have real wage growth going on. So that sort of top line number that everyone used to pay so much attention to has been a misleading indicator of what's really going on in the labor market. It's not. I don't think the labor market's in great shape, but it's not falling apart, and it hasn't fallen apart over the course of a whole year.
Interesting.
The household sector hasn't fallen apart. I thought that was a big risk. In January we got some income growth, so maybe that's turning around. I mean, and if you look at some of the sort of ISMs and sort of production indices, they're going in the right direction. They're getting stronger, not weaker. So it has been fairly resilient. But there's been some bad news at the same time. So which is going to win?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's clear there's tension in the economy.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, Powell also said he was going to stay on until there's a new Fed chair, and then until the investigation is complete. So it'll be interesting to see how the Fed continues to react to these events under his leadership, and then under the next.
Presumably Kevin Warsh's, if he's ever going to get a confirmation hearing. But at the moment, that's not near. I mean, this is hugely ironic.
Yeah.
I mean, Powell agreed to stay on as chair tempore if Warsh isn't confirmed. Tillis, if he stands firm, is not going to allow him to get a confirmation hearing until this lawsuits get dropped. And the DOJ investigation gets dropped. And Powell said he will not leave the board until it's all cleared up truly and finally. That could be a long time.
Yeah.
And so and the administration had a chance to take the exit ramp when the judge tossed the subpoenas. And they appealed. So that extends the timeline. So I mean, I'm very confused by how they think about these things. I am.
It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But again, Doug, thanks for coming on and joining us. Great discussion again today, and I look forward to it next time.
Thank you.